Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of your favorite NFL podcast out there. You can tell by the lighting behind me, the lighting behind Rick, and the lighting on Justin himself. As someone is eating during the show, but he gets a pass for everything going on recently. No,
Sorry.
you very much deserve
Thank
it.
you.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second Chaos After Dark episode edition this season here of your favorite NFL podcast out there, the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast, the fastest rising NFL podcast out there. At least, we're still fastest rising in 80 episodes in or so, give or take. We'll be up there one day. Who knows? The sun may or may not be gone by the time that finally happens. Anyways, joining me as always to make this a triumvirate, troublesome trio that loves to cause chaos on this program, because as we all know, it is the three facts of life: fun, football, and chaos, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just a motto. It's a way to live life. But joining me on this episode, as per usual, our games master at the bottom, who is getting a very much deserved week off. I guess perfect weeks. I'll let you, slack on the show a little bit. But our guy Justin is on the program there at the bottom screen. Justin, how we doing?
Good. Ready for some chaos after dark.
Absolutely. And you've had a very good week so far. I too have had a good week in most instances. Minus certain things, fraudulent QBs aside. And also joining us, as per usual on this episode, the man is eating a hearty meal after a long day's graft for himself. Some nice good scran. Rick, Podfather, please tell the people, what are you consuming at this current moment for sustenance?
A microwave DiGiorno's 4-cheese pizza and a Stewart's root beer. Because
that sounds like a victory.
Because all of my silverware, flatware, and dishware is over at the new house, because obviously I just wanted to use paper and get rid of the stuff in the fridge, so in the freezer. So my wife bought this for herself, but she's not here at the moment, so it's fair game. Therefore, it's mine.
Winners win. That's what I hear. That is the
winners win.
Dinner of champions.
That's right.
It will be like brunch by the time people watch this this upcoming weekend, but that's the fun we get to have. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, as you know, with it being Chaos After Dark, it changes up the episode a little bit this week, but we are still able to make our picks for the SAOC Pick Challenge later on in the episode to finish us off. And of course, we're going to be talking about the highlights of what Week 6 was, the chaotic week it was, back-to-back years now, where Week 6 was crazy, as Rick has pointed out in the previous week. But before we get to that, of course, before the fun and the chaos, or before the football and the chaos, let's start with a little bit of the fun. And it's going to be a little bit different this week because, Justin gets the week off from his duties, but the Podfather has decided to step up for the people. So Rick is going to entertain each and every single one of us here early on in the show. And it starts with another mind-blowing fact of the week. Rick, you've been on fire with these recently. So let's see what the next one in the chamber is.
I've been doing pretty well with these. You're right about that. So I want to take you back to, and stop me if you've heard this one before. Have you heard the story of Frank Hayes? I don't believe I ever told you the story about Frank Hayes. So Frank Hayes was an Irish horse trainer and jockey back in the early 1920s. And he was, a young jockey. He was 22 years old at the time of a big race on June 4th of 1923, rather, since we're coming up to just past 100 years since this happened. So Frank Hayes was on a 20-1 outside horse called Sweet Kiss. And the basically what happened was the race was running, and Mr. Hayes had never won a horse race before. He was more of a trainer and stable guy. So he had never won a horse race. So all of a sudden, Sweet Kiss is rounding the far turn in the steeplechase at Belmont Park and is coming home to an incredible victory. Incredible for a number of reasons, as I will explain to you. First of all, 20-1 is a pretty big upset when it comes to horse racing. I would say it's akin to the odds of Jurg having a winless week in the podcast lore. Oh well, things happen for a reason. But what made it even more interesting was that so Sweet Kiss wins the race by a head, and they get down to the winner's circle, and the horse is there in the winner's circle, and there's Frank Hayes. And Frank Hayes is on Sweet Kiss, on the horse, and not responding to any kind of anything that's going on there. So you're wondering, okay, well, what's happened here? Well, it turns out that in the latter part of the race, Mr. Hayes suffered a catastrophic heart attack and passed away while still on the horse. He was able to stay in the saddle somehow and won the race with the horse, who never raced again. And the thought process was that, jockeys at the time had to get to a very strict, weight. So he was obviously cutting weight basically at the time, which is, is very dangerous. And a lot of UFC fighters do that. But this also, if you want to believe this part, which I think you should, this story is the origin of the idiom "sweet kiss of death." Because of the horse's name, the fact that it never raced again because its jockey died in the middle of the race. So there you go. A nice little turnabout from well, not nice because he died, but I mean, a nice little turnabout in the story from this craziness of the story to an idiom that you've heard of and we've talked about probably on the show a few times before. So now we have an origin for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
The kiss of death, the sweet kiss of death.
Sweet kiss of death.
All coming from a jockey rider winning his first career race. Dude was like, destiny was so on his side, it took him and said, "You're still winning."
Yeah.
How much of a G you got to be to win a race post-mortem?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you remember from years ago. It was like 2019. Bodie Express, the little horse in the Preakness that bucked its jockey off and still kept racing.
Yeah.
And was like, everyone was pulling for this horse because he had no jockey on him, so he could like run free if he wanted to. But it's some horse racing. There's some weird moments that happen, and that was just one of those strange ones. So
it's just, how like for all of us growing up, and I don't think kids use this like insult anymore. But like if you like barely threw a ball, or if like you hit so soft, it's like, oh, you hit like softer than my like 97-year-old grandmother or whatever, like just some arbitrary age. All the riders that day, you could literally tell them, "Dude, are you really that good? You lost a race to a dead guy." You lost a race to a guy that is DEAD because actually got to censor for YouTube a little bit.
He wanted to win so badly that he sold his soul for the victory.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally sold his soul. You think, where did he go after that? Yeah, let's not ask too many questions.
Yeah.
But irregardless, man, what a guy. What a victory. He literally went out on top. We talk about these guys winning like the Super Bowl or the Stanley Cup or whatever in their final career game. Nah, man. Last moments of his life, winning a race. And then actually officially winning it post-mortem. Wow.
Exactly. That was, I'm sure if that happened in today's horse racing, they would disqualify the horse because, it isn't fair. But
yeah, because we can't have anything nice in this world, apparently.
They should interview the horse. Always.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They should be doing to begin with. Horses probably have more personality than some of these riders. Anyways, fantastic as always, Rick. You deliver every single freaking time, as per usual. You deliver so much, in fact, that you're getting double time this week. This is not the only segment you are hosting, my friend. Rick's
That's
like,
right.
We have a quick rendition of some Would You Rather here on the program. So, Rick?
Yes.
What are you going to question myself and Justin on? Justin is rarely on this side of things, so.
I know. It's actually kind of fun. And I remember we did this, I think, after week 1 last year when I said, what win was more impressive for the rookie head coach. So here's my question for you guys. Going into this week 7, there are 5 teams that are playing that have a 1-5 record. They are the Giants, the Patriots, the Bears, the Cardinals, and the Broncos.
I think the Wi-Fi failed them.
And gets to 1-6. Which head coach?
I think Rick's Wi-Fi is getting to 1-6 right now.
Week.
Oh no! I think let's temporary put him on the bench real quick. Just let the Wi-Fi refresh itself, Justin.
So he did mention the 1-6 teams, which is an interesting point. So I wonder what direction he's going to go with.
I heard something about coaching, so I'm wondering if the question is going to be like more focused and set on the coaching staff side of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would make sense. There's a couple coaches there that are newer, and there's a couple coaches there that are veterans that are have been to.
I had a gag order. I apologize. Anyways,
Gag Wi-Fi
the
too.
question was the 5 teams that are yeah.
You're good.
The 5 teams that are 1-5. The 5 teams of them, which team is in the most trouble head coach wise if they fall to 1-6?
I get you. So who basically has the least head coaching
again,
security falling to 1-6?
Correct. So again, it's the Patriots, the Broncos, the Cardinals, the Bears, and the Giants. I'll give you what I think is my answer too after you guys speak, because I think I have an interesting one actually. So go ahead.
I'm going to say Chicago, for the sake of saying that this is his second year, as opposed to some guys that are in first year, and then some guys that I think have job security. I know Brian Daboll is in his second year as well, but he won a playoff game last year. So I would think that he's got more job security than the Bears, who are bad again, as opposed to bad for the first time. Now, the Giants also had a rough schedule. They've had a rough go of things with injury, and they will be a slightly better team, I think, moving forward as things lighten up a little bit for them. Their schedule is not very forgiving, as we have recapped before. But, I mean, Bill Belichick is not getting fired. I think he's got at least 2 more 1-6 seasons before he gets the ceremonial axe, because it'll be we've decided to part ways. Bill Belichick has decided to retire. It's not going to be anything other than that. And Sean Payton is not going anywhere, because not only have they sunk a ton of capital into him in terms of money and draft picks, but he is at this point probably a Hall of Fame coach that they're not going to get rid of and give up on after one bad season with what's going to be a different team next year. And the same thing with the Cardinals. You're not getting rid of a rookie head coach for that reason. So all that being said, if someone was getting fired, I'm thinking it's Eberflus.
Yeah. So I think so this is the way I see it. I think there's 3 different ways to have this conversation. If you're talking about just strictly who is definitively going to lose their position because of poor performance as of 1-6, it'd be Eberflus. I think if you're talking about projecting ahead of the curve and strictly keeping it to their head coaching role this season, and depending on how they finish out, I'm not going to say that Gannon couldn't get fired at the end of the year, because look, first 6 games, cool, they're competing. If they get stomped out over the next 10, 11 weeks, that tune is going to change real quick. And let's not say that rookie coaches don't get fired. The Arizona Cardinals have done this before. Literally, that's how they brought Kyler in. They fired Steve Wilkes, who was a defensive first guy. They got the first overall pick with a quarterback who, in Kyler's case, was at Oklahoma, and Caleb Williams' case, former Oklahoma quarterback, and like getting him first overall pick. Like, they've shown they're willing to just depose a head coach, a la like a ruler in Europe, very easily if it's not working out. I could very much see them doing it again, because look, I know they're competing. I know they're working hard. Scrappy, working hard, and all that stuff only gets you so far when you're a head coach. Let's be realistic, still kind of a dunce in all intents and purposes of it. So I'm thinking short-term, Eberflus, long-term, Gannon. Now, final part of the answer, which I think is interesting. He won't be fired, but he will lose power. Bill Belichick cannot be the Patriots' de facto GM anymore after this season. He has lost. I think this needs to be the year where they take away any and all player personnel making decisions from him. You cannot with this, you cannot justify in any way, shape, or form this record to letting him keep the player personnel power. Because at the end of the day, the Patriots could get a top 3 pick in the draft next year. And instead of Drake May, instead of Caleb Williams, they're going to get the 5th string center out of Minnesota Duluth somehow. It's going to happen. You cannot allow this to happen if you are the New England Patriots. He needs to lose his player personnel. So if it's just strictly coaching role, it's still Gannon and Eberflus are in the lead. But if you're talking about their overall power within their organization, it's going to sting Belichick a lot more with this start, because I think Kraft has already made up his mind. He cannot be the GM after this. If he does, Yeah, you just got to give up the next 2-3 years.
So there's something funny about this because of the Patriots fans I know, which are few and far between, one of the biggest things they talk about is how they have not drafted a Pro Bowler in an exceptionally long time. I believe it might be in the first round, it might not be, but it's either way that their Pro Bowl selections have been few and far between coming out of the draft, and it really looked like they had one in the first round with Christian Gonzalez. He looked so good, and he's going to miss the whole year now. And it's like, as much as you're like, all right, now there's finally time to give him credit, you're not getting any credit for this because he's not going to play.
Yeah, but Justin, if Anthony Rizzo can be up for a Gold Glove in baseball for only playing 80+ games, like half the season, Christian Gonzalez could get Pro Bowl consideration for playing.
Christian Gonzalez gets a Pro Bowl consideration from like 4 games.
Tyler Huntley got it for having 2 touchdowns.
Tyler Huntley was a backup alternate, and he played more than 4 games.
So the way that you can also look at this too is who's in the most trouble on Monday in their respective media markets. The answer to that's Brian Dable. Giants go 1-6, losing to the Commanders this week. New York media is going to crucify him without question.
Well, I mean, but look, I as much as you hear about the Giants on talk radio and the media and things like that, Dable is not generally the one that people blame. And it's really not even Joe Shane either, because as bad as the signing of Daniel Jones may look right now, they have a lot of holes in that roster. Yeah. And again, it's something that we addressed in the offseason because it was a relatively weak free agency. The draft is what it is. You can't control whether or not it's strong or weak. I mean, I guess you can't do that with free agency either, but they weren't able to make the necessary adjustments to make a step forward. They got a little faster on defense, which is something they needed. They did try and bolster that wide receiver core. But, I mean, look at the schedule they played last year. I mean, what were their first 3 games? The Titans, the Panthers, and I don't remember. But the point is, they had
I know what you mean.
They had a much easier schedule last year that
Cowboys.
they benefited from. What was it?
Cowboys.
All right, I said 2 out of 3. They had a much easier schedule last year. They've had a gauntlet this year. They have played tough teams. They are very banged up. I mean, Daniel Jones has already missed a game. Saquon's missed quite a few games. The line has missed a few games. I mean, the strengths of this team was their offensive line and run game, and they're missing 4 out of 6 of the players that were supposed to start for them.
Yeah,
that's a major thing, and it doesn't matter if you've strengthened your wide receiver core if your quarterback is running for his life the whole time.
Well, that's what I was going to continue on with is that yes, Dable will get crucified. Belichick is already getting crucified by New England media. Eberflus is not a fan. They're not fans of Eberflus in Chicago.
He gone.
And I mean, Arizona is nobody cares. But as Jerk said, they have that history with Steve Wilkes. And Denver, yes, they had all that money in Sean Payton. I know Arizona is a new regime, but they still have that track record. It's still the same ownership. And Denver, I know they sank a lot of the money into him, but you have to wonder almost, if it gets worse for Denver, if they're like 1-9, 1-10 at some point. Like, does Sean Payton get a leash if he finishes 1-16 this year, do you think?
I think that Sean Payton gets a push for this year because at the very least, he could turn around and say, you know what? Hackett wasn't great, but the roster has serious deficiencies, and you could see where they are. As good as the defense was talent-wise, these guys don't mesh together. The system, the scheme wasn't right. Whatever. Sean Payton will get a leash, and guess what? He's already transforming the roster. I mean, they went out and signed Samaje Perine and don't use him because they have Jace McLaughlin. They're going to get rid of guys that don't agree with the system in terms of receiver and play. And if Russ is not meshing with the system, guess what? 1-10 might be good for them because then they'll get that quarterback, like Jerick said. If they end up with Drake May and it's a Breeze guy is a Peyton kind of guy, and they're okay with remaking the system, I'm sure they don't mind throwing Mims in there and trading Judy for whatever they can get, even if it's a 2nd-round pick instead of the first that they've been coveting so much. So I mean, maybe he's on a leash if they're 1-9. The second year, But as of right now, I don't think there's much that Sean Payton could do to change his situation in Denver.
At the end of the day, and I know it's a little bit of a different case considering, one team is owned by Walmart and the other team is owned by the owner with the least amount of cash flow in the league. But the Raiders were awful last season, and McDaniel's job security was safe because of the money factor. Like, while Walmart has money to spend, they're not just going to waste it immediately after a year and like cut ties with the guy. Sean Payton's going to be there for, I would think even in a bad second year, I think they would give him year 3 even. Like,
yeah,
Sean Payton has time. Of all these guys, Sean Payton has the most amount of time. Now, whether you think he should have it and whether he deserves it, because if he's a scumbag human being or not, it's a different story, different conversation to have. But in that same, like, I think of all these guys, him and Dayball are relatively the most secure, and Belichick is secure in terms of still being the head coach next season. But it's going to be a new GM. Like, I think the thing with Denver, and it's kind of, I forget what other team we kind of mentioned this about earlier this season. We probably mentioned it about more than one, but I think with Sean Payton, it's a difficult thing you're tied into right now when it comes to the Broncos, because if you even consider firing Payton, you got to get rid of Patton too, the GM. Like, this is his second head coach. Dude just got there, and this is already his second head coach. And he didn't inherit Nathaniel Hackett. He hired him. He let go of Vic Fangio, who he inherited. He got rid of him for Hackett, and he gets rid of Hackett after a year. Sean Payton, you can't fire 2 coaches after a year, because then you're going to be fired too. So it's
you can just ask Brody Van Wagenen. He did that with the Mets all the time.
Unless you're in Houston.
Unless you're in Houston.
Unless you're in Houston.
Well, I mean, there's absolutely no discipline that trash heap of an organization. Well, former trash heap of an organization. They're looking better now, finally.
This year.
Took a while.
Thank God for that.
But yeah.
It's almost like we knew CJ Stroud was going to be a better quarterback.
It's almost like a certain podcast or two picked CJ Stroud number 1 overall in their mocks, and maybe they were actually right about it.
Speaking of which, one of my favorite pastimes, by the way, Jurg, which is going back listening to our old podcasts. You remember the Adam Shine episode?
Yep.
When he said how Dak Prescott does in the first 4 weeks, we'll tailor how he goes the rest of the season. And Adam Shine said he has to get over 1,000 yards. You know how many yards he got in the first 4 weeks of the season? 908.
Look at him. Boom.
Exactly.
No.
I beat my Jets. I can't say anything bad about him.
Sure you can.
He got me points on that one, so I can't say anything either. But, speaking of which, the perfect transition over to talk about some stories and observations of Week 6, ladies and gentlemen, after what was, for the second year in a row, a really weird week in the history of this podcast. So many things happened over the last week. You had a, game affected by the weather that finished 19-8. The first ever 19-8 game in, what was it, Rick, 96 years in NFL history?
Something like that, yeah.
Last week's Thursday night game. Between the Chiefs and the Broncos. You had the Tennessee Titans not only losing games on American soil, but now they've added losing games on London soil to the list, as well as losing their starting quarterback potentially here for a period of time. That could be on the menu. And me and Rick were actually texting earlier this week, and Rick got to add another Alabama quarterback onto the legacy of guys who just can't work in this league, because I guess the guy who got paid $250 million is just a bum who can't throw the football apparently against other teams. So there's that. And apparently being picked with the last pick of the draft, it turns out when you don't have the weapons, maybe not as good of a quarterback as most people think. So choking teams aside who are going to disappoint us all more during the season, clearly aside, what were some of these stories and takeaways that you guys want to take from? I know I joke with them the most, so maybe this will be the question that has the least amount of, probably least amount of conversation. Tennessee Titans, boys. We know Ryan Tannehill got hurt in the game. Now, if it's me or Justin, I'm putting Derrick Henry under center for both quarterback and running back, which maybe he'll finally get paid if he does both, because we know running backs can only get paid every so often. But let's take it seriously for a second. I haven't seen any updates. Is Tannehill going to be missing this next game, or have you guys seen anything that would say to the contrary, is my first question. Because then my question following that is...
Well, it's a high ankle sprain. So, I mean, if Saquon missed a good amount of time, I'm sure Ryan Tannehill missed a good amount of time.
So to you both here quickly, opinion, who do you think, and if it's two different answers for this, like maybe you think who will start versus who you would start, you can make that distinction, but who's going to get the start? Is it going to be Will Levis or is it going to be Malik Willis for this next game?
I would bring back Logan Woodside and start him instead of either of those two. Because he has history starting for the Titans. So neither option is really that good, which is an indictment on both guys, really, because you expected one of them to like be a little more what's the word I'm looking for?
Decent.
Yes, thank you. In training camp, and it just never happened. So, I guess if I'm the Titans this week, I gotta look at what their game is.
Well,
They're on
if you're
bye,
the
right?
if you're the Titans this week, you're not starting any of your quarterbacks.
Yeah,
correct?
you're on bye.
Because they're on a
No.
bye, which
So
is
next week.
beneficial to them. They said that he will not need surgery on his ankle. It is the same ankle that he injured that caused him to miss time at the end of last year.
Yeah.
But fortunately for them, they have the bye this week. They're going to fly home from London. He's going to, sit out. He'll probably won't practice most of the week next week, and he'll be questionable going into week 8. But
Against the Falcons.
if I'm starting someone, I think it's got to be Malik Willis, only for the fact that you need to see what you have. And if you get nothing out of Malik Willis this week, then you're starting Will Levis the next week.
Yeah, I mean, again, the only consideration I would have in the opposite way would be that technically speaking, you drafted Levis higher than you did Willis. So,
Yes,
but it's a little bit more of a of a risk, I think, to start Levis to see what he is. But you're right, Willis was supposed to be the guy, but Willis was last year's Anthony Richardson. He was a project. He was a very raw quarterback.
but he hasn't performed the way Anthony Richardson has, and also he was not looked on as favorably as AR was. I mean,
He didn't really have the physical tools that Richardson had.
I mean, except for the fact that I know that a lot of us were saying, "Oh, he's going to go in the top 5," because we all are guilty of this. We all fawned over quarterbacks last year with Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis, and look what happened. Pickett fell to number 20.
Pickett went, and Malik Willis. So, but there was talk that Malik Willis was going to go as the first pick,
right?
First quarterback picked,
right?
And he didn't end up going to the 3rd round. He was the 2nd quarterback picked.
Yes.
So, it was an interesting quarterback draft, but
that's one word to describe it.
Yeah, look, you have nothing to lose by starting Malik Willis. He's the guy that has the experience. He's the guy that has the step up on Levis. Look, if they thought Levis was ready to play and ready to produce today, I'm pretty sure they would have cut Malik Willis. There's no need to keep him. No need to have 3 quarterbacks on your roster like that every week. True. So if they're doing that, I would say Malik Willis has to be the starter if Tannehill is out. Now, that being said, I have Levis warmed up. If things get out of hand, because who are they playing week 8?
Atlanta. So I don't know if it'll get out of hand per se.
If things get out of hand with Atlanta, this is not Baltimore. If things get out of hand with Atlanta, Will Levis needs to see the field, at least in the 4th quarter.
Agreed.
So maybe because obviously the game is now a week out further than they'd have to worry about. Week 8 ends, the trade deadline is gone. Like, does this affect the Titans in any way? This being a 2-4 team who has some pieces it could deal with the Tannehill injury. Does that really quick, yes or no? Do you think that'll make the organization be more likely to trade someone, or do you think it'll make them more likely to be like, our guy got hurt, we're not going to deal anyone? I don't know. What do you think?
No, because, and I'll tell you why. Because I think Tennessee looks at the rest of the division and say, well, Richardson's out, and Minshew hasn't played well in Indianapolis, and Lawrence is hurting in Jacksonville, and if he doesn't play, they're going to be in trouble. And CJ Stroud is a rookie, so the ceiling is going to be whatever it is for him. So I think they're in a very precarious spot. I think if everything else was going to plan, I think they would be a seller at the deadline. But because the South is such a mess, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna do that. I think either they're gonna stand pat or they're gonna try and add pieces to try and get a run going, because they're only 2 games out of the division right now. So I don't see it right away. I mean, again, we'll see what happens next week. If they lose to Atlanta, I think they're ready to sell, but I don't think they're going to sell just yet.
Their defense has performed well enough that it's worth holding on to. Like I think that short of bringing in a quarterback, They're not making that run. The offensive line isn't what it used to be. And Derrick Henry, as great as he is, he's another year older. He's another year of taking hits. I mean, you saw him start to break down last year. He's a great running back, but I don't know if he can be that dominant guy anymore.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
I mean, if I'm the GM, remember this is a first year GM that they brought in the offseason last year after a surprise firing after extending their previous GM.
Tennessee.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously something happened here that they haven't announced, and we may never know what it was. But whatever it is, there's new faces there now.
And there's no loyalty to this roster.
No, there's not. If you can get something for a Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins,
Kevin
if you're not going
Byard.
to be there, you still have decent young receivers in Traylon Burks. You still have decent young running backs in Tajay Spears. You have decent young defenders. I mean, there's pieces there to build around, even if it means you end up getting rid of the coach, because as good of a coach as I think he is, and he will get another opportunity in this league, if you got to reset, you got to reset. And I understand wanting to build with your guys. It's the same thing that happened with Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas was brought in by Adam Gase. And then Joe Douglas
showed him the door.
Okay, and it wasn't even up to him. It was, it was an ownership thing. But it was the right move for the Jets. So it might be the right move for the Titans. They might say, listen, if I can get a first-round pick for Derrick Henry, first-round pick for a running back to a contender,
Take it.
Chiefs are giving me the 32nd pick. Am I really saying no? I mean, not that they need a running back at this point, but because Pacheco's been excellent for them. But, why are you saying no? If the Bills come around and say 28th pick and you give us Derrick Henry,
that would be crazy.
I would be devastated, but also it'd be good for my fantasy team. So what are you going to do? Are the Titans really going to say no to something like that, especially at 2-4?
Yeah. That's why I think it begs the conversation, because now what does this injury do to you? Like you said, first year GM, these are not his guys for the most part. It's going to be an intriguing end to things, to say the very least. Okay. There's a lot to talk about. We have a limited time to do so. I'm not going to lead the convo. Is there any topics that you guys want to briefly touch on here, or highlight of what happened this past week before we continue to move on?
I could have talked about the Titans forever, by the way, but
so we are not subjecting the viewers to that. I'm not allowing it.
I know. Well, there's just so many issues there that I want that. But no. Anyways, how about the Browns defense? Because as good as the 49ers are, and as banged up as they were without Trent Williams and CMC and Debo, they still have decent skill position players, and they still absolutely thwarted that offense every chance they got, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
They were a top 5 offense going into this week, and they still held Kittle out as well. Kittle had 1 catch for 1 yard. They were excellent. They were excellent in all 3 phases of the defense. And it still came down to a missed field goal because the 49ers are that good.
Yeah.
But
the Browns offense is also still so bad.
They also had a backup / third stringer, depending on how you look at it, quarterback starting, who played okay for them. I mean, he made a couple mistakes, but he kept him in the game, and that's what they needed from him. They seemed evenly matched with one of the best teams in the league. And it didn't seem like that after the first drive. After the first drive happened, when 49ers just immediately drove down the field, scored a touchdown with CMC, everyone said, okay, this game's probably over. Everyone except for Cleveland.
Yep. And Kareem Hunt paying dividends. The touchdown that Cleveland needed at some point, got him, and that's why they brought him back into the fold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, that was a huge result. The Jets beating Philadelphia was great.
I wonder why you're highlighting that.
No, I'm actually highlighting it briefly because I want to talk about the other 5-1 team in the NFC, the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Jared Goff, gentlemen, is a pretty good quarterback, is he not? 340 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 12 catches, 124 yards. But here's the biggest reason why the Lions are dangerous. a game like that, their defense last year would have allowed 440 plus yards or whatever. The defense has taken significant strides this year. I was a high number, 251, a high number, but they only allowed 6 points. So Baker Mayfield was able to move the ball around, but when it came time to stopping points, the Bucks got 2 field goals. Nothing else. So listen, I think this is one of those moments where San Francisco and Philadelphia had their little hiccup, their little bump, and now Detroit can make their case as, hey, we can be the number 1 seed too. Look at how we're playing. Look at how we're beating these teams going into this week when they have a tough game against Baltimore. They put on a clinic against the Ravens this week, and they make a statement in that game.
Which I think they might. Like, the Ravens
very
are not
possible.
the
It's very possible because again, I mean, you look at the schedule this week, you see that game. San Francisco's got Minnesota, which we know is probably going to be, nothing here or there. But that Philadelphia-Miami game now takes on a different meaning because I know we're still early, but if things shake out a certain way, Philadelphia could be fighting for the 3 seed at this point because they have not looked impressive at all this year.
Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but if the Lions win a Super Bowl, is that the best win-win trade of all time?
Probably.
For Stafford? Absolutely.
Resulted in a Super Bowl for each team.
It did.
And that never happens. That never happens.
And it would be Goff winning the Super Bowl for a Lions team that has never been to a Super Bowl. So they'd be 1-0.
That also haven't won a playoff game in like half a century.
So, yeah. But I'm telling you, like, I keep beating that drum that Jared Goff is a top quality quarterback. And he keeps putting on performances like this. It's going to be hard to ignore him.
I will say this, like, just for long term, I want to see how many more games the Lions get away with their lead running back only getting 15 yards.
Well, okay, Montgomery's probably out. So, but that's the thing. Like, they can diversify with Craig Reynolds on other days. It just happened that this day Tampa Bay's rush defense was really good. But
and Tampa Bay's offense, like that looked like the kind of game we expected Tampa Bay from our preseason predictions. So
yes.
Is that a regression to what we believe the actual mean was supposed to be after all? There's a little bit of mathematical terms for the people. But and I'm not saying this to take away from Jared Goff. I'm saying this to say Lions, I agree with you both. Like, we all picked the Lions to win the NFC North for a reason. Did we?
Yeah.
All right,
yes.
just making sure. We all picked them to win the NFC North in the preseason. Like, we expected this team to be good. I think we all agreed that the 3rd seed was wide open in the NFC. Apparently the 1st seed now is too, because the other 2 happen to be chokers. Like, they very much have a chance here, but there are still flaws on that team. And if I'm not saying that. Look, I think we all agree after this weekend, especially, there's no such thing as a flawless team in this league.
Exactly.
But that being said, I think the flaws for Detroit, there's still a couple more there compared to what the Lions and 49ers are. So I just want to put that out there.
Absolutely. Look, I'm not saying, like I said, I'm just getting ahead of myself with an idea like that. But like, if you really want to break it down, look at the strength of wins for the Lions. It's not great, really. I mean, their only loss was an overtime game where it was a questionable call in the overtime, and they lost to Seattle. That was a really good team. They've also beaten, they've beaten the Bucks, they've beaten the Panthers, they've beaten the Packers, and they've beaten the Falcons. The only really strong win in there is the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that was without Travis Kelce.
That's a good record right now, and that was without Travis Kelce and without Chris Jones.
But again, let me spin it this way too. I know we're short on time. Let me spin it this way too. The Giants last year won 9 games, beating teams not convincingly, but they won games that were attainable.
Okay, but now they're 1-5. So
no. But what I'm saying is that they also had a bit of an easier schedule than other teams might have had. The Lions, I think, are kind of benefiting from that a bit because you've got the AFC West. You still have to play Vegas and Denver at some point. You've got who else is there? They have the NFC South. So you still have to play Atlanta and you still have to play New Orleans at some point.
Cupcakes on that schedule.
So I know they already play Atlanta, but you still play New Orleans, right? There's cupcakes on the schedule, so you got to play the Bears. You got to play the Bears twice.
They might get 13 wins.
They might. They got to
That's
play the
wild.
Vikings twice. Like, if they just win their games and play their way, they could be that 13-win team that Minnesota was last year. And then we could be saying maybe they're fraudulent too, but I don't think they are.
Well, I know my fact or fiction next week.
Right?
There you go.
Fact or fiction? Will the Lions only win 7 games next season because of a harder schedule?
No, will the Lions be the #1 seed this year?
Maybe.
And
We'll see what happens
easy
this
schedule,
week.
and they are a good team.
Fair question to ask after this, man.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move on, gentlemen?
What a world we live in, though, that the Detroit Lions are a good team.
Well, they still got some bugaboos to.
Goodish.
The issue is, are they that cursed franchise? Because the Jets haven't been to the playoffs in 12 years, and they have a more recent playoff win than the Lions.
Yeah, but Justin, they won in week 6, so they avoided the curse of week 6. So, yeah.
It seems so. It seems so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what a world we live in where the hashtag SAOC pick challenge exists. The segment of the show where every single week, Rick, Justin, and I go through the cavalcade of games throughout the NFL for a specific week, and we all decide to pick games in a serpentine draft order throughout the season based off of a points setting where it's all based off confidence. The 4-point pick, the game we're most confident in. The 1-point pick, the one we're least confident in. Doesn't matter. You could go 4-0 in all of them. You could go 0-4 in all of them. It can happen. And have to eat terrible sandwiches on air in a couple weeks' time. So, that being said, we are going to make these picks. Set standard rules really quick. We must always pick an upset pick. At lowest, it can be your 2-pointer. You can pick a tie, but it must be used with your 4-point pick, which does get upgraded to a 5-point pick, by the way. And ultimately, these lines that, yes, it's a little bit earlier in the week when we're doing this, but thankfully we still have a line. Thankfully, due to our amazing friends at
Caesar Sportsbook.
As always, thank you, Justin. And I think that is everything that has been said. Difference, though, this week, ladies and gentlemen, because of how early we're recording. I think for the first time in hashtag SAOC Pick Challenge history, the Thursday night game via totalitarian vote between the three of us and Billy Shakes is going to be added to the slate of games to be eligible to be selected by. So,
I have a bone to pick with Rick about this because it was his idea to exclude the Thursday night picks anyways because he hates Amazon.
And now he wants to include one.
and Al Michaels. And now all of a sudden he comes out of nowhere like he's trying to trick us or something. I don't know.
We've never recorded on Wednesday before. So obviously I figured it was just a little bit different because last time we recorded on a Thursday while the Bears were spanking the heck out of the Redskins. Our Commanders. No, they were the Redskins because they were getting spanked like that, so it made sense. So I still will refuse to watch the game. I can't. I have no TV in this house anymore because I moved over to the other house now. But, I'll...
Justin, wait. Between me and Justin, how about this? If Rick chooses this game, if his pick is wrong, we take away points based off of where he used it. How about that?
Oh, the Taylor sighting.
Just for you, yes.
All right, Rick, you are the record keeper, and we are running on time here, so let's get on with it.
All right, well, all this falderall and discussion, Jerg, you went winless last week.
Yep.
So this is the first time ever that Jerg is in last place in the pick challenge.
No, it's not.
Yes,
No,
it is.
He definitely picked first last year.
I had to have.
No. You might have picked first in week 1, but you never picked first any other time. You doubt my record-keeping skills?
No. I'm starting to remember what the start of last season was. That's why.
You doubt my record-keeping skills? So, Jerg, you had 0 points last week at 34. You had less points than Billy did last week, which is a little embarrassing on your end there.
I'm still ahead of him. That's
we're all ahead of him by crazy. He has 9. Justin had a perfect week, which got him into second place, 42 points. So, very nice job by you. I still hold on to first place at 44. So Jerg will pick first with the games that are in hand that we talked about. The Thursday game, there's no international game this week. So
Thank God.
A Thursday night and then straight 1, 4, 8 Mondays.
I'm honestly not that confident in any of these games anymore, considering what last week was. So I just got to go with what I think should be the most obvious result. And if this team lets me down, then they really are as choke artists as I thought they could be in the preseason. Bills over the Patriots.
If they find a way to lose this game, oh dear.
I'm trying to not have to put anything in the swear jar, but let's just say I'm not going to be very happy next week.
Oh dear.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm gonna have to go with what I think is the second most obvious one, and that's gonna have to be an angry 49ers team over a depleted Vikings team. No Justin Jefferson. We don't know if CMC or Debo will play this week, but even with that, I do expect them to at least be able to move the ball against the defense that's struggled so far this season.
If the 49ers can't destroy this team, even without those two, I think we need to start asking some questions about them.
I could not agree with you guys more on that, and I think it's high time for some serious discussions on that end here. So I have back to back now, and I'm like you guys. I do not like a lot of these games that are on the board this week. Even the Seattle Arizona game, which is the highest points per remaining, still scares me to some extent.
Right.
Because Arizona's playing really well for a 1-5 team.
What is it the last couple of weeks that the three of us agree that we like more upset picks than we do the wide spreads? What the hell is happening?
I don't know. I truly do not know here. I'm gonna go with a bit of a surprise on my 4-pointer though, because Pittsburgh just added a brand new corner because I know they lost somebody. I think they lost King, I believe, from their roster. So I think that the Rams are ripe for the picking of targeting the new guy that's there. So I'm going to pick the Rams over the Steelers, my 4-point pick in LA. I think it's again, Cooper Kupp looked pretty good last week, and they still have Nakua and Atwell, and their running attack was actually really good for the first time in what seems like a decade. They had a good running back. Cam Akers was not the answer for that too.
Kyron Williams I believe, is out this week.
That would be rough. He had an amazing second half.
But I believe who was it? Zach Evans was also pretty good, and I think they just added Myles Gaskin as well.
They also re-signed Henderson to the practice squad.
Yeah, I don't know if those last two names are additions more
than Henderson was good for them last year. We remember we couldn't figure out why they cut him to keep Akers. He wasn't playing.
Yeah, no, so I agree with that. And then in my 3-pointer, I'm going to pick an upset, and I'm going to stick with a 4 o'clock game actually. It's a very low upset right now, and it probably will flip at some point later on this week. But I'm going to take Denver over Green Bay. No love for Jordan Love, obviously, and so I think Denver will find a way to get off the schneid because and when they're close, and Green Bay is a team that I think they can allow them to stay closer in these games. So I'm gonna ride with the Broncos. Oh God!
It's interesting that you've picked two teams against teams coming out of their bye. Which is especially against Tomlin coming out of that bye. I'm surprised at you. And also, I have a question. I don't know if anyone knows this. When was the last time we saw an away favorite with a losing record?
Been a long time, I feel.
Yeah, it has been.
Packers are 2-3, and they're favored in Denver
by 1. Well, the team they're facing is 1-5. So
No, I mean, I get it, but that's just a rarity. I wanted to point that out. I'm glad you didn't take this game because I was debating between the two. I'm going to take the Chiefs over the Chargers. I know that the Chiefs have not looked as good, and look, that Chargers defense has been rough. So we'll see what's going on with that. I expect Mecole Hardman to actually have an impact on this game, considering he was just traded back to the Chiefs for a 6th-round pick, I think it is.
Yeah. I did think about this game, Justin, but my big qualm with it was AFC West divisional games always seem to be a little bit more unpredictable.
Yeah, I mean, it was between this and another game that seemed a little unpredictable. And to be honest, as much as I wanted to pick that other game more, I'm gonna stick with Patrick Mahomes and the refs in Kansas City. So
fair.
We see what you did there.
Very fair.
Man. Okay. Again, I'm not feeling confident in these picks, man. Oh Lord.
Flip a coin.
I would if I could.
Pick a game.
I don't actually have a coin on me. Look, man, I got to go with my Ring of Honor guy. If anyone can help me, it's him. Give me the Seahawks over the Cardinals for my Week 3 pick. I think there's a little bit more value for them there. And now my upset pick. I kind of put myself. Ooh, my upset pick. All right. I actually do like a couple of the upsets here on the board. Okay, I'm gonna be as fast as I can. I'll be bold. Lions over Ravens.
Damn, that's what.
Ooh.
Finally, I sniped someone. Rick has sniped me for the last 5 weeks.
No, that's what I wanted. That's where I was going with my next pick. That was the one that I was not so sure about.
But it's more value at the 2 comparatively. So
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So,
It is.
that being said, I'm gonna pick the game no one wants to touch. No one wants to touch.
Justin's gonna bookend the week.
I'm gonna take the Dolphins in Philly. Well, who do you think?
I thought you were picking Jaguars.
No. The Jaguars should be a decent favorite, even if they're. I mean, I guess they're not. It's weird that
They're not. That's 1 point for New Orleans. I think
it's probably because people are questioning whether or not Trevor Lawrence is going to play and how healthy he will be.
That's what it's going to be. Yeah,
he's going to play. Come on now, people.
No, I mean the one game that can go literally either way. I mean, I know the Eagles are favored, but I mean, we'll see what's going on with that team. But yeah, that game is almost a coin flip, and I'm going to take the Dolphins there.
I don't blame you, Justin. I would agree with you. If we were picking outright, I'd pick the Dolphins in that one.
All I have to say for me, what's left is just yuck.
You hate us,
basically. No. It's not that. Not that I hate you guys. I don't. It's just like I look at what's left, and it's just like literally, it's just yuck all around. See, I don't trust that. All right, you know what? Let's roll some dice here and let's see what happens here. Chicago over Vegas at 2.
No Justin Fields.
I know.
No. Justin, quiet. Let him finish. Let him finish.
Give me a Tyson Bagent win.
Let him cook.
Give me a Tyson Bagent. Well, okay, because here's the thing: is Garoppolo back as well?
Yes,
because Garoppolo's in the hospital.
I think Jimmy G's supposed to.
He was out the next day. He's expected to play.
Okay. All right. Well, I
made that same question earlier in the week, and I got put in my place.
Yeah, I still think that Chicago at home, Vegas, they don't really do a whole lot of travel that well, so I'll roll with that. And then, you know what? I'll be that guy. Jacksonville over New Orleans at 1.
Of course. All right. So if Rick's pick is wrong, he will lose a point in his standings. That's fine. Me and Justin are. No, we're kidding.
No. Well, let's roll with. Let's play with it.
We're kidding. We're kidding.
Crazy. All right. And you know what? I can't argue about picking the Bears over the Raiders without Devontae Adams there. And to be fair, he's healthy and playing. They just don't want to throw him the ball. And I'm gonna pick the. I want to go safe, but I'm gonna be dangerous here. I'm gonna pick the Giants to beat the Commanders.
Also, what I was thinking about as well, but
I'll be quick. Browns over Colts.
That was the safe pick to me, but
I'll take my safe pick. I need any point I can get right now, bro.
That's true. You doesn't look good for you. Did not look good for you.
Oh, that's a story of my life. So
yeah, how about that?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our picks, but of course there are 2 more games to be technically selected this week. I mean, we know who's going to get them. It's just all about, well, actually, I don't think it really matters because, as we know, there's a new way to do things now. The Wheel of Chaos with the new multiplier. Both games are worth a point. So, Rick, quickly go over, as I'm about to spin the wheel right now, quickly go over what are Billy Shakes' 2 games and what results is he picking.
What games are still left? Atlanta, Tampa, and what else?
I thought there was one more. We had 14 games, did we not?
I thought there was 2. Unless my numbers were off.
Yeah.
He's a Pirate. Who cares? He'll take Atlanta over Tampa.
Is there really just the one?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's just the one.
Huh. Okay. Well, this doesn't really work out well because there's only so many picks. So,
Just add 2 to everything.
That's fair.
Yeah. Add 2 to everything. I guess my thought was that in trying to add the Thursday game, we'd have 2, but actually in adding the Thursday game, we actually gave him an actual, try there. So this is 2 times and then 2. So it's going to be 4. 4 multiplier. So
Indeed. 4x for the pirate.
there you go. Recapping very quickly. Myself, I go Rams over Steelers at 4, Broncos over Packers at 3, Bears over Raiders at 2, Jaguars over Saints at 1. Justin, Niners over Vikings at 4, Chiefs over Chargers at 3, Dolphins over Eagles at 2, Giants over Commanders at 1. Jurg, Bills over Pats at 4, Seahawks over Cardinals at 3, Lions over Ravens at 2, Browns over Indy at 1. The Pirate goes Falcons over Bucks with a 4-point multiplier for his one and only pick.
All right. And with that said, there's one thing left, ladies and gentlemen. Let's end this off. Chaos After Dark on the right note.
The podium this week is one thing and one thing only: all-nighters. Because that's what happened last night. I pulled an all-nighter last night trying to pack up my house to get ready for a move, and I found myself asleep at a couple of red lights, Tim Welsh style, from the old Hofstra basketball days when I was there too, and he was drunk and asleep at the wheel and got pulled over and then lost his job. Thankfully, it didn't happen to me. I actually stopped at Panera and got myself my free bagel and coffee for breakfast, which was nice. It was only 26 cents because they were free, but tax included because America. Anywho's, and then I ended up actually asleep at my desk for about 3 minutes per every 15, because literally my desk chair falls back to a certain way where it jerks me awake. So I couldn't really get a good sleep on that end. How I'm functioning right now, I have no idea. Once I'm done here, I'm going to keep packing up this house and getting it ready for the move-in. So you may need to find a new co-host for week 8, guys, just because I may find myself driving off of a ravine at some point, not on my own free will and fruition. But I'll tell you why it happened. It'll happen because Adam Rank told me to do so, and then he made my car full of Dunkin' Donuts, and then therefore I had to swerve to get away from it all. So that'll be what'll have happened.
Well,
Yeah.
Podfather, we appreciate the work that you always put into the show. As always, you know how much you know how much both on and off the show that Justin and I appreciate you as always, and I hope that people appreciate yet another hour of spectacular content that they have gotten on another edition here of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast After Dark. We're going to get a couple more of these probably to end out the month of October and maybe early November, ladies and gentlemen. But once things start to slowly even out, hopefully, we will be able to deliver a little bit more regularly. But it doesn't matter what time, what day this show happens. Rain, sleet, snow, hail, sunny out, dark out, afternoon.
Black Forest ham and banana peppers and
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, danger witches that make your stomach want to sink even to deeper depths than that Titanic sub was supposed to. At the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on yet another edition of the show this week. You beautiful, beautiful people that listen to this program on a weekly basis. I don't know why you do, but just let you know, we appreciate that you do. Thank you so much thank you all so much for joining us on yet another edition of a show filled with fun, football, people knocking out, and chaos. We'll see you guys next time.